Hello everyone, my name is Smelt. I'm still working on building up my YouTube channel, but some of you might know me from the Death Battle or Mashup Week Megamix Discord servers, or my appearances on Fan Battle Cast. Well, regardless, I'm not here to talk about any of that. I'm here to introduce you to my new favorite matchup, ZOE vs Cici. Now, for the uninitiated, which I suspect will be most of you given the relative obscurity of these two, I think it's better to start by going over who these two are and where they came from, starting with ZOE. So, what the heck is Monster Prom? Well, to be very brief, Monster Prom is a series of party dating sims that allow you to woo the hearts of your peers, who are all various different types of monster because of course. The games have a unmatched sense of humor, with top-tier writing and dozens of fan-favorite characters. Each run only lasts 1 to 2 hours, so the games are chock full of secret endings and random events to keep you playing. And these secret endings can get pretty nuts. So, who the heck is ZOE? Well, she was originally introduced in Monster Prom as Zagord, ruler of the Dark Realms. Untold millennia ago, she was sealed in a totem and spent the thousands of years trapped in there plotting the demise of this realm. Later, one student bought the totem off a shopkeep named Valerie. Through the process of summoning the ruler of the Dark Realms, this student formed an affection and asked it out to the titular Monster Prom. This worked. Somehow. After experiencing the kind gesture and reminiscing on their time together, she realized that Zagord wasn't really her anymore, and she gave herself a new form with a new name, ZOE. As it turns out, ZOE's true calling in life was to be a massive nerd. She would end up obsessing over anime, comics, and especially the Garfield series, and became a prolific fanfiction writer and artist. Naturally, she immediately became one of the most popular characters in the whole series, used as the main faces for the second term DLC for the first game, as well as the fourth game, MonsterCon, as well as being DLC playable characters for the second and third game. So, now comes the even crazier part, because Monster Prom was kind of simple to explain, but Mashup Week is a whole lot more complicated. To be extremely brief, Mashup Week is a mashup tournament where a variety of characters and people representing various selections of music compete to have a week of mashups all to themselves. This premise was straight up turned into a story in the descriptions of the music uploads, which were originally on SoundCloud but were later transferred to YouTube because of the broader audience. Despite the absurd premise and the frankly insane selection of characters and people, this story can still be pretty impactful, particularly with the star of today's show, Cici. So who the heck is Cici? Well, in the Mashup Week lore, as a child, Billie Eilish made a chair. Somehow, this chair was alive and imbued with incredible psychic power, and when Billie joined the tournament and lost in round 1, it hijacked the event. Filled with rage, it manifested a loser's bracket as well as hiring, and in one case creating, a selection of bosses that the contestants would have to face off against. However, each of Chair's efforts to sabotage the tournament failed, with its epic legion of bosses being defeated, and an early partnership coming back to bite it. Earlier in the tournament, Chair had allied with Garfield, who was secretly an eldritch nightmare monstrosity who desired nothing more than to kill every single one of the contestants. As Chair attempted to confront the tournament's finalists to stop it from going through, Garfield snuck up on it and tore it apart. It barely managed to squeak out an apology before passing on. After the tournament was over, the contestants felt bad for Chair and attempted to revive it. It worked, but Chair wasn't reborn as fabric and plywood like you might expect, but as flesh and blood. Taking up the new name of Cici, she found she quite liked her form, and was a lot happier than she was as a Chair. Now, here, with a human body and all of these friends, she really felt alive. Later, when Mashup Week's sequel tournament, Mashup Week Megamix, was starting up, Cici was strangely absent. However, she's still made a couple of cameo appearances since, such as the dubiously canon Remix Week, and based on a teaser near the end of Winners Round 2, it seems like she'll be returning very soon. But that's enough of this silly little knowing and respecting the characters malarkey. I know what you're really here for, fictional characters trying to kill each other in stupid and fun ways. Well, this matchup is surprisingly good at that part. So it turns out, being a former ancient eldritch nightmare god has its perks. Here's an extremely incomplete list of things ZOE can do. She can shapeshift her generally amorphous nightmare body, she can read your thoughts and invade your nightmares, summon tentacles from the floor to attack you, devour souls, dreams, minds, thoughts, sanity, deep-seated insecurities, sorrow, the crippling fear of death present in all mortals, opinions, black holes, marshmallows, and more, can spew blood, scarabs, and locusts from her infinite mouths, can steal years of your life, even from the past, can see through time and extra time with 4 cups of coffee, can implant false memories into your mind, and she's great at counting. Cece's ability list isn't quite as long, but it's still rather impressive. She can use her telekinesis to manipulate objects. She can set things on fire, including an entire arena, as seen in the photo below. She's magic, which is extremely vaguely defined so far. And she can fly. The most interesting of all of her abilities, though, is her sheer, unfiltered spite, which is so literally toxic that it can corrupt you and turn you into the worst version of yourself, known as an off-key. In fact, she got so mad that she corrupted an entire pocket dimension into a toxic Technicolor hellscape. Also, she might have the guitar from Brody Quest, but that's from Remix Week, which, as I said, isn't solidly canon, and it's probably not that important anyways. You know, smashing action figures together is fun and all, but connections are nice to have too. Use some real quick ones. Both began life as beings of incredible, potentially reality-warping power who would menace a cast of colorful characters before becoming women and finding their true selves. Both have psychic and telekinetic abilities. Both previously led small, tight-knit groups of minions that kind of fell apart once they transitioned because, oh yeah, did I mention ZOE has a cult? And on a more meta level, they both started out as a looming threat in their series' first installments, before finding their true selves at the very end, then were kind of absent outside of the occasional cameos and dubiously canon DLC, until their series' most recent media where they finally started appearing again. At least I hope that's the case by the time Losers Round 2 starts up. But, you know, a fight dynamic isn't just about the individuals, it's about how they can play off each other. So here's some cool things that could happen. Obviously, the Garfield connection is kind of insane, so that would probably be how the fight starts, because goodness knows I would get mad if I saw someone wearing merch of the guy who killed me. Cece's way more unhinged in terms of personality, so she would definitely be the one, like, escalating the fight whenever possible, at least near the beginning. As ZOE gradually lets loose, she'll start taking control of the dynamic more and more. Cece's more traditional powers, like flight and telekinesis and fire, could pair really interestingly with ZOE's more off-the-wall stuff, especially things like the swarm of locusts. And finding creative ways to use all these weird powers could be a ton of fun from a writing perspective. There's also a little bit of these are silly characters, why can they do this, which was something Fall Guys vs. Among Us did really well. But here's the big one. Off-keying someone turns you into the worst version of yourself, right? Well, the worst version of ZOE is kind of a massive, hulking mass of tentacles who's hellbent on destroying the universe. It turns something that would be a win condition against a lot of characters into something that might actually make the fight worse for ZOE, and I think that's really interesting from a fight dynamic perspective. Plus, you know, the climax to Magneto versus Tetsuo is cool, and this would be a lot like that. As for who wins, though, I think ZOE wins right now. She has better arguments for reaching near universal levels of power, unless Cece has some crossover scaling which you can get into, which I tend not to buy, but could be like a tipping point. But ZOE has generally better arguments for universal, and her hacks are so utterly insane that it's kind of questionable whether Cece could even really do anything before she gets her mind scrambled. But, you know, for a fight dynamic, it's still really fun. Yeah, I know, ugh, homework at all, but if you want to learn more about this matchup, there's definitely some places I'd recommend checking. First of all, I've written a script about this matchup that can be found in the description below or in the presentation that I'm providing here, which is currently almost done and should probably be done by the time you're listening to this. I'm not particularly skilled on the calcing side, but I've done my best to catalog everything I know about the matchup here. And if you want to know more about the world of Mashup Week, because there's definitely a lot that I left out, you can watch this video over here, the Mashup Week Classic Lore Recap, which I've also linked in the description, which recaps the whole story up through Mashup Week Classic, where Cece was at her most prominent. From there, you can read the Megamix lore posts on mashupweek.cloud, but I'm not sure if I would recommend doing it just yet, since Cece isn't really relevant for that yet. Maybe that part will change by the time she joins Megamix properly. Now, this is the part where you would ask me questions about the matchup if this were a real pitch presentation. It's not, unfortunately, but that's okay. I'm still willing to answer any questions you have about the matchup in the comments of YouTube, where I'm posting the video, or on the Death Battle Discord server. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, I appreciate it. And to close this all off, trans rights. Thank you for watching.